interesting because I think for like, you know, women in general, like when you become moms, right? And when you're seeing social media, it's like we all get very caught up in paying attention to what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't know how to figure out how we're doing.
Yeah.
And we just compare it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Comparison is the thief of happiness.
It is. Wow. Yeah.
I like that one.
Were you reading a book?
You're like a miniature Buddha.
It's on the back of this.
Yeah.
Big
Snapple. It's under a Snapple can.
Yeah, I don't see that
On the lid.
I have a selfish question, but I think it ties around. I mean, it's not selfish. It's how do, so you're sitting in a room with a bunch of men.
Yeah.
I would say on the level of, you know, feminine men that are aware of their femininity and the strength that brings as a male.
Yeah, hold on.
Crush.
What
do you say?
Where's the duct tape? Let's crush it, bro. Sorry, Richie. Please
Anyway, just trying to have a moment.
Yeah, it's not here. Round crowd.
No, now I'm dying for the
How much
rest of it.
TRT are you putting in there?
Enough.
Anyway, so as a partner to a female, and you're sitting with others that have partners that are female, how can we, going through this 40 to 50-year-old age now in the next 10 years, what can we do? You know, do you think about that? Do you talk to your clients about, you know, helping, I don't know, coach their men? But like, what are some of those things that we can like honestly help and support? I think listening, but like beyond that, maybe.
That was a
non-selfish
question.
That was a very selfless question.
I know.
I appreciate you asking
I wrapped
that.
I wrapped it in. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think it's a great question, you know, because I feel like a lot of my job is in teaching my clients, teaching women how to ask for help in a way that it gets heard, right? Like,
Oh man, that's difficult.
It
like,
is.
I heard a little stat where like 95% of what we hear, and you have ran into this with me, because we're work wives, like we're our spouses at work.
I watched your Instagram.
Like, I'll hear something and I'm like, it totally isn't what they said, and I'm sorry to my wife.
Yeah.
And Dr. Zach.
Yeah.
Because I get that. It's like, how do you speak to be heard? And it's like hard for me because I'm like literally listening to you, but it didn't plug into my brain. So
yeah.
go
Well,
ahead.
and also I think like when women need help, right? Like when a woman is overwhelmed and stressed, right? They walk in after days of work and the house is a mess, the kids are going crazy, a million things. Like that's the thing about women, right? We've got kind of that ticker in our brain, like everything needs to happen. And a lot of times what happens, maybe, you know, if it's a feminine and masculine, like just, you know, the way we operate a little bit more is the men will think, okay, so to be helpful, I just have to ask her, what do you want me to do? But what a woman really wants is for you to already know what needs to happen, right? We don't want to be the carrier of all the things. Do you know what I mean? Yes. Like, because then the husband says, well, what were you thinking about dinner? And like, I'm like, I wasn't thinking about dinner. Like, I don't want to think about dinner. Like, I want somebody else to think about dinner.
So
like,
don't be Ray Romano.
Yeah, right?
I'll make a deal with you. I throw this out, and you can call me an idiot.
Deal.
Right? I mean, but it's that we don't want to be truly the keeper of all things, because we have to realize that it completely exhausts us, you know?
Yeah.
So we want somebody that already knows, like, this needs to get done, so I'm just going to do it, right?
Totally.
Because it's exhausting keeping track of all the things.
So the masculine side, like my brain thinks, like with Michaela, it's like, well, I don't want to make a decision and it to be like off-putting because that adds to it. So I think like her and I, like that's where we that's our junction. I'm sure you have that as well.
I'm just laughing.
Yeah, because it's like I care about her and I know she's stressed about X, Y, and Z, and I know she wants me to make a decision. I've been working on that kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
And so what would you, is like a strategy for me is like, I know I could pick from these things and just make that decision. You know, like historical data, I'm like, okay, these are options. Let's move forward with one of those.
What's the least likely to be the mistake?
Right, exactly. And I would just say, just ask, I was thinking about doing this. Is that great? Right? Like, then it just is like, and if she says, nope, absolutely not, I'd like this, then you know, right? But you've at least presented one, right? But when there's so many options, then it can become overwhelming because we have so much in our head, right? But the other thing I was going to say is, I think it's so important for for all of us in relationship to realize that when we get overwhelmed and we have all these things in our head, that we can snap and say, would you just, do this? And like, we have to ask for help in the way that the person will actually hear it and want to be of help for us, right? Like, I have teenage daughters, and there are days where one of them wants to wear the other's, sweatshirt. And the way they ask is like so inappropriate and awful. And I'm like, what is the end goal here? You want her to say yes, correct? So like, why are you being so mean?
God, I love your skirt. Where did you get it?
It was my mom's in the 80s.
Vintage. So adorable.
Thanks.
That is the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen.
It's the way we approach asking for help that like, we don't want to all of a sudden put up our partner's defenses, right?
Yeah.
You want to ask in a way that you can be heard. Maybe you want to express your feelings and say, I'm feeling this way. And if you could just do X, Y, and Z, that would really help alleviate the stress. But we have to come from a place of calm, right? We can't erupt.
Heart at peace. Yeah.
We need to breathe first.
Yeah. So how do you get to that calm? What's your coaching?
Honestly,
strategy?
I believe awareness, right? I think doing something for yourself and realizing when you're heightened and that might be the time you might want to do the thing, but we got to take a break. You got to put yourself in time out, and you've got to come back to, and you've got to think about what's the end goal, right? Because if you're doing that with like eating and you're just eating anything that sounds good, and then you're upset that you don't have the health or the vitality or the energy that you want, you're not looking at what's the end goal. Like, why did I eat that thing? But if you're wanting help, but you're just going in and like screaming and yelling, you're not focused on the end goal. You just want to vent.
So building those goals is
Building the goals, like knowing what you want at the end of it and being really clear, and then like kind of backtracking and say, so if this is what I want, what's the best way I'm going to get it?
We're all little kids
Right.
just trying to get what we want still. And
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I want to jump in for a minute because we have a couple minutes left. I would prompt, what's a gift that we can leave our wonderful listeners, all 34 of you out there?
I mean, I liked what you 34?
Soon to be
Seriously?
35, I bet.
Growing.
It's growing.
yeah. Be careful.
I'll subscribe.
I like what you said about like
45.
taking a time out, because I've done that for a number of years where I'm just like, I need to go downstairs and
Yes.
take like 5 minutes
Yeah.
to just like be in my thoughts, and then I'm gonna come back and be like good.
Maybe.
So I like that.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like what you were saying in the beginning of like, hey, you got to be aware, and you need less noise to be able to do so.
Yeah, I think doing less to accomplish more is something that I've been trying to do, like saying no to things, like just putting up those boundaries for myself, because
Yeah.
I know myself, if someone asks me, like if a neighbor's like, hey, do you have 5 minutes to lift a couch out of my basement? I'm like, yep, let's do it. And then I'm like,
not
why
5 minutes.
did I say yes to this?
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, and I don't know if this is male, female type of thing, but like coming from being a helper, like that's what I do. We probably strain ourselves a little bit too much trying to help people
Yeah.
when we should like step back and help ourselves and reflect on that. So
I think a lot of us maybe grew up with parents sometimes that would just say, because I said so, right? Like that was the end of story.
That's
like,
not a reason.
why? Because I said so. And they just didn't want to explain it. And I think that what we've learned, through the power of communication and all of those things is if you just explain it to people and it can become, valid, then they're going to understand, and then they're going to take that forward. So if I say to my daughter, I needed 5 minutes. It helps me come back. I needed to breathe. Sometimes when you get upset and you just can't, you're not right in the brain. Sometimes I get that way too. Like this is a normal thing. We all get this way because we all grew up thinking our parents had it all figured out, and now we're parents and we're like, crap, I don't have it figured out.
that's why they bought pizza
So
all the time.
so just like
Friday night pizza.
talk about it, right? I'm just
that's
huge
huge.
on like, my favorite sayings for like all of us as parents is the very, we think that we have to sign our kids up for all of the things and do all the things and have them go to all the things and whatever. But the very best gift you can give them is be the happiest version of you. Like that's
totally.
it, right?
I
Like
got little chills.
right? And it's like, I think that that's it, because we spend so much time thinking like, are they okay? Are they okay? Well, are you okay?
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm okay, if I'm super happy with like who I am and how I live my life and what I'm teaching them and what we're talking about, then they're going to be
Yeah.
also.
Because their world is you.
Yes.
It's not that.
It's all the modeling.
It's there. Yeah.
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 Well, on that note, that was awesome.
It's good.
Man, I think we should probably wrap it up, but
Yeah.
with the intention of if you would ever come back again.
So
I would totally come back.
how
This is
do
fun.
people find you?
So I'm on 2 different places on Instagram, but I'm not a very good poster. But I'm at kelly.altman for my health coaching and at Altman Fitness for the gym.
Sweet.
And people can just
Training.
like Google you and
Totally.
like those
Yeah,
numbers
I
will
have both
populate.
websites
And is
as
that-
well.
If they want to
So-
do a class or meet with you, is
Yeah.
that the best way to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to come in, if they're local and they do in-person training, then then that's amazing, and that kind of gets them into the community and gives them a place to feel really supported. And then I do have the online community of women kind of talking about all of the health
And
struggles and bonuses and all
to
that
add
stuff.
to that, men are invited as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
The gym is not like women only
Yeah,
by any
good thing
means.
to
We have
clarify
a
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And, all
And
that
your space
stuff.
is updated too. It looks pretty badass.
Yeah, and our space is awesome. But we do have a few awesome men that I hope never leave. So it's a great space.
Yeah.